Hey, it's only me.
Before we get started, here are the trigger warnings.
So you were sexually abused or assaulted as a child. Does that mean you will go on to become a perpetrator? There's something within me. It's like a hurt, angry, horrified child. And I feel like that child is constantly policing me and my behavior and wondering about my motives and why I do things. And then there's like an adult inside of me as well who's like healthy and past all the trauma and is always being assaulted by all these accusations. And it's so weird. And obviously I don't have multiple personalities, but I think we can go through our lives and understand that we have different facets of our personalities, and that especially if you were abused, neglected, or like assaulted as a child, you do have a wounded child inside, I think I've heard people say, and that is what it's like. So I police myself really often, and I question my own motives, and I really think about, you changed a diaper. Did you enjoy that? Like, no, clearly not. Is poop everywhere? I would rather not do this. I wish they were potty trained already. I don't know, but I still have to have this child who's hurting inside kind of say, will you become abusive? But just make sure you don't. But just like, I don't know, I'm not going to. You can calm it down, but it's still there in the back of my mind. Will I become abusive? Where are my motivations lying when I'm doing something? I'm going to throw some real statistics at you in this study that I've been reading. I really identify with this study and I really believe it, even though it wasn't necessarily a study of the general population. And it's really hard to get an accurate view of sexual assault in childhood because there are so many unreported cases, or cases that the police couldn't do anything about in my case. So it's really hard. It's not something that's easy to do, but what we can do is go back, what they call retrospectively. So look back at people who have admitted that that's happened and look at their circumstances. And I think this is really going to interest you if you're wondering if you're more likely to become a predator.
So the study I'm reading is Cycle of Child Sexual Abuse, Links Between Being a Victim and Becoming a Perpetrator. The study starts off by highlighting the fact that there's a widespread belief in a cycle of sexual abuse, but really no evidence to support it. The results show the data supports the notion of a victim to victimizer cycle in a minority of the male perpetrators and not amongst the female victims studied. Sexual abuse by a female in childhood may be a risk factor.
Now, I find this particularly intriguing because I was actually abused by a man who was abused by a sister in childhood, and we're talking about sexual abuse here. I do feel like the news and TV shows and movies and stuff, they do really highlight children who've been abused as becoming abusers. But if you think about it, what is interesting or watchable about a child who's had a difficult life and grows up to become really resilient and works on themselves and heals and has a wonderful family and a wonderful group of friends and is loving and trusting? There's nothing interesting about that. It's better for the media to portray us as animals and something to be afraid of because that sells more. It ruins our life, but it sells more for them.
Anna told us that her sister was a victim of abuse as well. But she never imagined her sister would do that to someone else, let alone a member of her family.
Unfortunately, when media portrays child abuse, I almost said victims. Survivors. Victims or survivors, whatever's best for you. I prefer survivor. Maybe I'll do a video on that, on why. There's a whole thing around it, but it doesn't really help when people portray survivors of childhood sexual abuse as the bad guy. It makes you view yourself in a really negative light, and you wonder if you are capable of those things, because like everybody knows, if you are abused, you'll become abusive. And it makes you view yourself negatively, but also fear that once people find out, they'll view you negatively too, because you view yourself negatively. So you just feel like it's so alienating. It's really alienating to feel like if you open up to people or you're honest with people, that they're either not gonna like you anymore, or nobody trusts you anymore, or they look at you differently, or it's awful.
You're not a bad person. You're a very good person. And bad things have happened to you.
See you next time.